I really like this as well. I think what he made, you know, what I was worried about initially when we saw this thing, where I was like, you know, we're always rushing. He was spot on. We're always rushing for the posters, right? I'm just submitting a couple of abstracts right now, and I'm already thinking. And
I think
it's not like getting everything on and making it bad. Might as well, yeah, we can work on making.
So I don't know if you can hear me now.
We
yes.
can.
Okay, yeah, that's never happened to me before. So good suggestion, Sylvia. So yeah, I think this will be posted, right? The link, and then if you go to the guy's site, you'll get the templates. Plus he has a lot of good stuff on Twitter. But I think we just want to open it up for any comments from the faculty and anyone else, but anyone who wants to go ahead and comment, go right ahead. And don't be reticent. Anything would be valuable.
I'm trying to imagine myself using that design, and the only thing I kept thinking is it's really good. It really forces you, or sorry, I will be forced to really hone down on what is the take-home message. Because I have a poster to present in January, and I'm thinking this and that and this and that. And after seeing this presentation, you know, I just keep thinking, in one sentence, Homero, what is it? And I don't have that one sentence. So I think it's going to really force me and anyone who tries this method to really, you know, be focused.
I think that's a good thing personally, because I've actually tried this just with some Twitter messages, because you know you can do an audio there, and it makes you think pretty hard about what the bottom line is. And you know, a lot of times people have trouble saying, you know, what's this all about? It sort of forces you to think about it, and then yeah, you're not going to get everything, but at least you'll get what you think is most important.
One thing I saw from the video was it is good to share our posters with non-academics. Like, you know, you can ask your sister or your mom or your husband to look at your poster and just get the main idea. I think that's good, because that kind of tells you how a poster, you know, if they are able to get it from like Blimming, then that's good. If they are not, then that means you need to work on your poster, right? I have to say that for me, as an economist, we don't do that many posters. So I didn't came with a preconception of how posters have to look. So I ended up kind of creating my own. And I had the benefit that my husband is in advertising. So he always kind of give me feedback on my posters. And he's like, no, that's too much information. He always will say, try to keep it minimal, you know, like the main idea. So I will say that was my main thing that I think it works.
Yeah, so I assume people have done poster walks. People like those because, you know, you get to interact really, but you start a lot of times with the summary from the presenter, and they often have trouble. They'll start talking about the methods and all these details, and you're still, you know, what's the bottom line? So I think the thing here that's great is it's start with the bottom line, and then, you know, people can fill in with the details and questions. And it's also, like you just said, Luisa, it makes it more usable for community and for, you know, lay people. All they want to know is what you found anyway, so you have a better chance of communicating to the world, you know, not just the researchers. But Gary, you look a little skeptical sitting back there in your office.
I think you just have to be very cautious that all the pieces that we're talking about are on top of the structure. The structure is, here's in the middle, that's your focal point. And then you have the two sides, you laid it out beautifully. But it's the punchline. And, you know, in the military, they talk about the bluff. And the bluff is bottom line up front. And the commander is not worried about all the itty bitty details in the methods and everything else, because they assume you are the expert. And that's in the backup slides, if anything, right? But it's communicating in that middle piece, I think, is critical. So lay language is useful. But what I think I noticed was, as I went through, this conveys very easily in words if you only have a single relationship you're trying to talk about. X causes Y, that type of thing, then you can say it. But how do you actually convey something that's more complicated, a picture or something? I mean, I guess I'm not quite sure how to do that. So that to me is a real struggle.
Yeah, I mean, I think this only gets across the, a few things when you do it, but it makes it so at least people get something out of it. They get and then if you're more complicated, you don't have to use this design, obviously. You could have another thing that is a little more detailed, another part of the poster that would get it a little bit more detail. And then you could have, other stuff that's like he has that is really, really detailed, where you have to really study it. So I think you could always vary this. You don't have to always just have the very basic stuff. You could have a little bit more detail that's sort of a second level, or some variant on this that might work for you. But I mean, the point is, I think, I don't know, my experience with posters has been, I don't get much out of them. I keep trying, what is the bottom line here? And then you have to ask them, and they struggle with telling you a lot of times, the researcher.
Yeah.
So at least you're going to get what the researcher thinks is the bottom line, even if, you want more. That's
a good point, Ron. I mean, now what I do with posters, I mean, I don't even honestly look at them after reading the title. I just ask the presenter, just tell me what you found, and then I still struggle to sort of understand what they're trying to say. And so I'm always trying to figure out what's the best way to ask them to sort of distill the take-home points. Even if I say what's the take-home point, they diverges. But I thought it was really helpful. I thought more information definitely would be better, but I just think the concept is good. I mean, a lot of times in these big meetings, it's so crowded, you can't even walk through, through and look at the poster you wanted to look at. And, now I've seen people taking pictures. So the QR code was an interesting sort of alternative to taking a picture and then never looking at it.
Yeah, I agree.
So I actually found two of my posters, and I found like one that has a lot of information and then one that is more condensed. Would it be good to kind of look at it so that you guys can see the difference? And I don't know if you let me share the screen, and if that's okay. I mean, it probably take me a little, but I think these two posters will show exactly what the video is talking about. And so if you let me share the screen, I can show.
I think it's ready to go if you just hit share screen.
Okay. Okay. So this is my first version. As you can see, I have things, right? And my second is the same project, right? So my second version looks like this. And then I think the second version is much easier to read because you can see the description, the aims, right? And then you can see the main effect, right? But the other version, you can see it's just too much, right?
But even if you go to the second one, I'm still trying to, it's better, but I'm still going, where do I look to find the bottom line? I always want to know that.
It would be more like the effect, right? So it would be kind of towards down here, right?
Well, that's what I was doing. I was looking at the bottom right, and I'm going that, made it bigger, and then we know, well, this is what you think is the bottom line.
Yeah.
Then we can start looking at other things too.
But there is a big difference, right? So here you can see that it's so difficult to like really find.
Oh yeah, it's much improved.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I thought it's a good example of how you can simplify, and it's still hard. I mean, you as Ron pointed.
So maybe I'm curious, maybe the bang for all of this is actually making us think. It's not just the format. The format forces you into what can you say that's the take-home message. So either you say, here's the question and here's the one-word answer. Does education help people save money? Answer, yes. Right? And so there's your bottom line. And then how you got there, the randomized control trial, all this stuff is around that piece. And you don't give the detail and the conditions. It's not all the caveats, basically, and we're afraid of being wrong. So the caveats actually start taking the cognitive space up, as opposed to, here's the result, Then we'll talk about the caveats.
Yeah, sometimes people in presentations will say, this is what I'm going to tell you. You know, this is what, and then I'll give you all the details. And that's not done very often either, but it's a similar strategy. It's like, okay, I know where you're going, and now you're going to show me the details behind it. I'm more interested in the details because I know where you're going and I don't have to figure it out. And you don't have to agree with their conclusion. You know, you could say, oh, now that I've seen what you said you did, I don't agree, or I think you need to be more careful about what you're saying.
I also like, find that it would be helpful, especially just for even just presentations, right? If you want to do like a PowerPoint presentation, I think it forces us to like really think about the main message. And I think if we could just, try to redirect what we learned from that poster, strategies, and then putting it there, that would be helpful. Another thing that I just learned, I mean, my mentor used to say to us when we were writing papers, he had like, and you all familiar with it, tip, they call it like, tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them, then remind, and then tell them what you've told them. And I think if you follow these simple rules, in addition to, maybe like what the bottom line is in what the research question is, I think, within like 4 slides, you would have covered everything, I guess. So I thought it was really.
Yeah, and more journals now are doing these like bottom line type parts, like sentences or, key findings. That's more and more common. It's sort of like this, right?
I really, really like this because I've always been disturbed by how much information people try to put into one poster, and they go way beyond the word limit, and then they have still a little more they want to add, so they reduce the font by some numbers to put more. I mean, it's true, and then it's overwhelming when you are walking by. It's just like this cartoon thing. It's like, ooh, where do you find what is this about? So I actually really like it. I think it gives you the bottom line, and then if you're interested, there is all the other information if you want it. But while you're walking by in a presentation with all these posters, it gives you what the main topic is. I really like the presentation and the idea of.
So Keith, what do you think?
I really liked it. I sort of, it's trying to think through, because used to a certain approach. And I've always felt that for posters, you're going to the poster because for me, it's not as much the to some it's the findings, but really I'm more interested in what they did, how they did it, how they got there, right? Because that's what I want to understand. But at least what I felt was with this approach, they did have it's there. What I really liked was the QR code, right? So the QR code is a way to quickly get you to all the other information anyway. I'm a little ambivalent on, not that approach is bad, but they have, for a lot of journals now, they have like one slide that captures your whole project. And that slide has conclusions, and it has it's a nice summary in a way. And that's another way to do it. And again, it doesn't give you the same detail, but it gives you much more detail. But it has but if you add the QR code, then you could connect somebody to all the additional details if they want to see it and they don't want to just ask you about it, or they want to be able to sit. I think it's, as Gary said, that the important point here, I think, is conceptually, it's forcing everybody to think about what the take-home point is and how you really want to drive that home, and whether or not, and even as the author said, whether or not it's his model or something around it is something people can work with. But I think conceptually, I think he does have a good point as to what we're trying to accomplish in these poster sessions, particularly when you're in a poster, you're at a conference, half a floor of a conference center in San Diego that's 2 blocks long, and you're trying to go through things. And here you can actually walk through and excuse me, and come away with like you felt like you got something. And then you can go to your QR codes later and drill down if you want to.
Yeah.
I wonder if another way to look at this, I know we're talking about what is the take home, but maybe what that middle thing is what draws you in? Because in a sense, research is this really complex web of ideas and things that we did. And the way we typically do it is we do it like in newspaper columns. We start at the top, and here's the question, and we sort of meander down the first column, then back up to the second column, and so forth. And we're basically telling the story of how we did the research, and at the far right-hand corner are the results. So we look at it as a story of progress of what we did. But if you're trying to attract people, you want to pull them in to your system of ideas. And then you wrap all the other stuff around that. And so what draws and what pulls people in to ask the further questions, to me, is another way to think about it. It's how I try to get people to understand systems. Is you can't understand a system until you decide where you're starting in it. And it's that starting point that's absolutely critical for learning, and then you build around that. So you could look at this as the draw, the hook. I think you were talking about it, Lisa, about your husband going, well, you got too many words, but you're trying to, in advertising, you're trying to draw people into this, attract them. The hook.
Yeah, you want them to be interested in what you're doing, or at least figure out if they're not interested, efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think some people feel that way in presentations too, because you never have enough time in a presentation. It's like 15 minutes, 10 minutes. You're not trying to cover everything. You're just trying to get people interested in what you've done and give them enough detail so they feel like, there's something reasonable in the science, and then they can ask questions later. Any other opinions? I know there are people who have some ideas that haven't said anything. There's got to be.
One thing that I also really liked about the video was how he talked about kind of translating those findings, kind of your main takeaway, into a plain language summary. Because I think we all go to a lot of interdisciplinary conferences, and so oftentimes I see something, I'm like, that sounds interesting, but it's like there's like so much jargon. So I think that's a really good idea as well.
Yeah, it'll make it more accessible to people who aren't necessarily specialists, right? And you'll find out something that otherwise you just get lost in the details. I think that's the case. Anyone have any great experiences with posters? They're like the best experience of their life, and there was anything about them that were other than what we've talked about, or even what we've talked about in all the different meetings you've gone to? No.
I'm waiting for them to have sushi at the posters.
Sushi?
Sushi, yeah.
So you've had sushi while I'm sure people have been where you have hors d'oeuvres and drinks and stuff too, and that always makes it nice. And you
take it to the next level for me.
Yeah.
The funny part about it is, what I found most impressive about this whole presentation is actually the presentation. The delivery, the video was amazing for delivering information. I know he was delivering information about a poster, but that probably has more impact, what he just did here, than any article that most of us will ever write in our careers.
Exactly.
Right. We'll remember that.
I mean, he was cramming a lot in there too. I mean, he was talking very fast, but you could understand it, and the visualization really helped. And
if you put it on half speed, then he'll be talking like the Alvin the Chipmunk, but you get through it in 10 minutes. The impact per minute is pretty high here.
Yeah. Yeah, he worked hard on it, and it's paid off. I don't know. Well, someone had said, I forgot who it was who had seen this, but it's kind of, oh, I think it was Steve Wallace. So we were talking about this in RCMAR, right? And what is this? Do you get rewarded for something like this or not? You should. It should be considered a really big contribution, but is it really set up to get the rewards? Like he said, he should have been writing papers, but there's not as much incentive to do this sort of thing. So it's amazing he went ahead and did it.
He's making advertising money.
Is he?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe he's financially benefiting. Okay, well, we don't have to go on to the whole hour. That's the other thing, we can be efficient. So I think if we've covered it, unless someone, really wants to talk that hasn't, I think we're good, Arturo. And then if you click on this QR code, you'll get Arturo's biography as well in the future.
Yes, please.
If you adding to it, right?
You can fill in a quick evaluation for us. And we'll post the talk online, so you can go back and review the video and everything.
Okay, yeah, and I encourage people to look this guy up and see the comments that people are making and other resources that he has. He doesn't just have this, he has some other things too that might be interesting.
Thank you.
Ron.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Bye.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.